Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Dean Webb. Dean Webb, we all know him as the Executive Director of Faith Farm Ministries, and he is on top of everything. And I just have such respect for him and admiration. And one thing that they do there, they have a lot of them. I don't know how often. Dean, you have a lot of graduations. How often do you have a graduation?
About every 6 to 10 weeks. We used to be on a 6-week rotation, now a 10-week. And like we'll have Boynton Beach, you'll have theirs, and then the following week, like we just had one at Boynton Beach Sunday. Next Sunday will be Fort Lauderdale. The following Sunday will be Okeechobee, and then it'll be off. There's a 10-week rotation then after that.
And what does a graduation mean for a student?
It's somebody who's spent the full 10 weeks in the program, and they've passed all the course curriculum and done everything you're supposed to do, kept their nose clean, didn't use. We saw progression in their attitude towards people. Their classwork was good, and then they stand up and they give a 5 to 7 minute graduation speech. And usually it's, I was born such and such a time somewhere, in where they were born, what city or country, and then they tell what happened in their life that brought them to Faith Farm, and then the life change they experienced there.
And usually when I've been there to the graduations, they're usually about 12 people.
Right. Sunday we had 2 women and 9 men, so there were 11. So it varies,
And it's always tearful.
Oh, yeah.
Always tearful. And the nice thing is that a lot of the family members who can come, do come. And it's interesting to watch their I guess, how they feel about their child. That's their child, even though it's a grown person. What happened to them and how sorry they are. It's very momentous, very.
Well, I sit on the front row, and this Sunday, we had something that we've never experienced before. We had a lady who graduated in 2014 from the program, and she's been totally clean, and she actually has become a CDL truck driver, a cross-country truck driver, and she's based in Atlanta, and she'd been addicted, been prostituting for 20 years, and came through and got totally regenerated, and her son saw the life change in his mom, which he couldn't believe.
How old is this woman? About she in 40s, 50s, 60s?
She's in her, the son's 20, so she's probably 40. It's really hard to tell. People have been addicts.
But between 40, 50, this woman, okay.
She was in her 40s, I would say.
Right.
And so the son came into the program, and she came down from Atlanta to attend his graduation. And I'll tell you, Anita, she pulled a chair. It's so crowded, we have to put chair in the aisle, so it's kind of narrow. Well, she pulled one of the chairs up right in front of the podium, about 12 feet from. She turned her camera vertically, and because she wanted to record her son's graduation. And so I'm sitting there. She's right beside me because I'm on the front row, and I'm sitting her. There she is in the center aisle recording. And, of course, he starts his testimony, his graduation speech. And then he starts telling how abandoned he felt by his mom, who was doing the drugs. And I look over, and she's got tears flowing down both cheeks. And as he tells the story of the feeling of abandonment from his mom because she was doing drugs instead of caring for him, she's just shaking. I don't know what that film's going to look like on her camera, but she's just shaking because she's sobbing, hearing how her son felt about her. And his grandparents who took him in were there, and he apologized from the podium to his grandparents because he said, I can't believe at your age you took me in, and I stole from you to get drugs for fixes. And I know that a lot of times I'd go a long time before you miss the jewelry or whatever I stole. And he just said, I've just got to apologize because he says, I didn't treat you right for you taking me in and stepping up for my mom. And, again, she's sitting there just sobbing. And anyway, it was about a 4 hanky graduation speech from me. And Cindy and I were sitting, my wife and I were just sitting there, just the whole crowd was just sobbing. It was very very powerful, poignant moment.
Do you think that she knew he was going to say those things about her?
I don't know, because people are pretty blunt. They have to apologize to wives and mothers and everybody else up there for the way they treated them and ignored them and stole from them and whatever. And so it's always a pretty strange, strong moment of truth at the graduations.
But here it was she caused him to have this problem, which is
Right.
even a little different.
Exactly. And so anyway, that was one of the stranger things I've ever experienced at graduation, because I don't recall having a parent come in and then being there for their child who came through. So that was really pretty powerful. That was really a neat experience.
I'm sure it was, and of course, probably all the other people talking was like, what do you do for an encore, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he was about the fourth or fifth one to speak. The two women went first, of course, being women, and then he was the fourth or fifth guy out of 9 to speak. But it was really a poignant. Those graduations are just, I mean, we actually place a box of Kleenex in the center of every single pew in that whole church. Yeah, because we just do that because we use a lot of Kleenex. We buy it wholesale, and plant it on all the pews of the church because when you have a graduation, it's just like that. It's a really gut-wrenching moment when they tell their stories.
So I was thinking about this. So now someone's been in a protected arena, in a sense, and now they're free.
Right.
What is that like for them?
It's a shock. We warn them. This particular guy was going to go from Boynton. He was going down to the Omega School program Omega Work, and get a job and work there. We allow him to reside there for 6 months, room and board free till they get a job, and then they have enough money saved up so they can go get an apartment and put up first and last month's rent and the utility deposit. And he was going to go down there and try and get a job. We buy them a bus ticket so they can get around, because in Lauderdale, it takes them a long time, to travel back and forth and stuff. But that's all they got at that moment is time, And we have a career center with 31 computers where they can do job searches and their resumes and all that stuff.
But now, if their parents want to support them, can they do it while they're doing this with Omega? Or no,
Sure.
Oh.
Yeah, the parents can.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be nice. One thing about our program is it's pretty rare when people that come through actually support us, which is a big mystery to us, because we just think, we bend over backwards to create a free program, to make it free for them, and which free is a very good price. And in the grand scheme of things, because down here everything's $1,000 a day, as you know, in recovery programs down here in Florida and on the beaches. But it's a real mystery to us why some people don't do it, but every now and then somebody does. We have a lady who's so excited that her nephew's in Okeechobee that she drives all the way from Palm Beach County all the way to Okeechobee, 2 hours on Sunday morning to go to church there, and she's given large amounts and dropped it when they pass the collection plate.
Well, I would think that if people are listening now and they have any relationship, I mean, it's one thing to just contribute, and that's excellent, but if you've really experienced something with a family member, then you really should open your pocketbook. I mean, you really should do that. This is not right. It's it's like a payback. No, and you're not going to tie their hands, but I certainly think they should do that. And I don't understand, if they have money, even if they give you $10 a month, something.
Yeah.
I was just listening to the public radio, and they're doing their fundraising.
Yeah.
And people can pay $100. It would be great.
Yeah.
So maybe we have to figure out how. Maybe when you got a volunteer who can learn how to help you fundraise in a different way than you've ever done.
Right. Because we've taken a lot of pride in the past, because this month's our anniversary. We're 66 years old.
Oh.
So we've been doing this for 66 years, and we always prided ourselves on our micro business enterprises funding it. But as the foot traffic in the brick and mortar stores, our thrift stores have dropped down, so have our sales, and so we're we're going to have to do something constructively as an alternative and do fundraising like most other nonprofits do all the time. Solely, we're going to have to do it as an addition to ours.
Well, it seems I don't know, how many students have you had over the 66 years? I'm sure
We estimate probably about 30,000. They didn't keep a lot of records, but when we back up the numbers based on the beds we've had and the number of people who have come in, about 30,000 plus.
And of that 30,000, how many addresses, phone numbers, email addresses would you have? Would you have 2,000?
Very few. Very
Not
few.
even 2,000.
Well, I don't know if we have 2,000. Most people are ashamed of their life if they've gotten to that point. So when they graduate, they don't really forward us. When they move, they don't forward us they tell all their relatives their new address, but they don't tell Faith Farm. We make them a part of our alumni association and with instructions on how to keep updated, keep in touch with us. But they rarely do. They rarely do.
Isn't that interesting? Because I was thinking, my goodness, just, $100 from each one of them, you can make the money you need.
Absolutely.
And they don't have to pay it all at once.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I've been on a tear about this because I said that to you, that it doesn't make sense. I mean, if they've gone out now, and some of them I know have done so well. Now, did some of those people give you money back?
Every now and then we have a couple of students who have gotten good jobs, and they will send us money, maybe not every month, but every other month, and that's really a blessing. I mean, we always ring the cowbells for that when somebody comes and pays back,
So can you add to your curriculum? And I know you probably think it's not fair, but I think it's fair. Let this be a part of your orientation, I think.
On giving back?
Absolutely. You should say that when this works, we hope in your heart your appreciation is more than just thank you. That even if you can give $1 a month, if you can give more, great. But will you please put that into your mental capacity? I think you've probably not asked. And maybe while they're there, and maybe that's something you need to start doing.
Yeah, that may be up in Okeechobee. Of course, that's 12 miles outside of town on a ranch, and so it's kind of isolated. But every now and then I'll look when the offering plate on church is passed, and every once in a while there'll be a yellow canteen punch card with 4 or 5 unpunched squares. In other words, they're giving up the ability to, each one of those punches is a soda or chips or something, and that's all they have extra,
No,
and
that's
that's all they have to give.
That's sweet.
And they will give the balance due on their
That's
on their
sweet.
canteen
really
punch
sweet.
card.
And that's a good thing, I think. Maybe I need to be part of your orientation. No, I mean that seriously. I ought to come in and be the outside speaker about this, and then, and tell people about this, and the punch cards are fine, and that's very sweet of them, but there needs to be some money. There really needs to be some money, and they need to put that in their brain.
Yep.
And maybe they're not doing that.
I agree. Well, the scriptural principle of sowing and reaping, where you plant in the ground and you eventually get a harvest back, we teach that in terms of giving and finances. But it's hard for them to get it. Most of them have come from such broken lives, such broken circumstances, that they're just lucky to have missed jail because the judge let them come to Faith Farm in lieu of incarceration.
Okay, so 9 months later, they now are a whole person. They have family members. They have, even if they make a certain amount of money, if you're not getting enough money coming back from them, there's something that's missing. So, all right, well, we'll put that aside, but just please put it in your brain because it just pains me to see all the good things you do. All right, so the graduation happened. Mm-hmm. And now there'll be another one. But I want to go back to this. So the people who don't do Omega, what do? All of a sudden, the graduation day is there. That was Sunday. The next day, do they pack up?
Well,
what do they do?
It depends on their individual circumstance. Like if they want to do a job search, if they don't know what they want to do, we allow them 60 days to decide. They can still stay up to 60 days after graduation. And and they can do planning. If we have an opening Omega School or Omega Work down in Fort Lauderdale, they can funnel in down there. They can stay as an advanced student, because if they've got good leadership skills, we'll let them stay there. And it's what they call giving back. They'll give back by staying there and working for free for a year. Some students do that, and that's very gratifying, because they're probably fulfilling the thing that we'd have to hire somebody to do. So it saves us money, allows us to do some things that we couldn't normally do if we have an extra body. And somebody who's been there for 10 months, they certainly know the ropes, so they're a good staff person to help, and we'll put them over some new students, some newbies, yep. and help manage and counsel with them. And so that's one of their choices is what we call AS1, Advanced Student 1. They can go AS1 for another year. They can go to school and or Omega Work. Or sometimes they go home. Some of these people, actually, now that I'm thinking about what you're saying, some of these people come from well-to-do families, and they go back to their father's businesses and stuff like that. So some of them go home to business, and that's, so they all go different ways, different routes, depending on what they're. But we have a period in the final phase where they have to write down a plan on what they're going to do. They have to tell us what they're going to do. And one of those plans is staying connected in a local church or synagogue, so staying around people that are healthy and emotionally stable, to help support, like a support group, to interface with good people and not get back out on the street. Because we just had a girl graduate she graduated like 5 years ago. She didn't do as instructed. She did for about 6 to 12 months. She did good. And then she started running around with an old girlfriend of hers, and make a long story short, she ended up getting totally addicted to heroin all over again, and came into our program. And she said in her graduation speech, she said, I didn't do what I was taught to do. I just didn't do what Faith Farm told me to do. I didn't stay around people that were like-minded with my renewed mind. I went back to my old ways eventually. And she says, and it just doesn't work. She said, and so she said, all you ladies sitting out there in the program, you need to know, when they tell you need to stick with good, sound-minded people, both mentally and spiritually and economically. And she said, you just need to do that. Because if you go back to your old ways, you're going to be tempted.
Wow. So, and I would think, just like when someone has served, and I don't know this personally, but when I see films or documentaries, they've been in prison, coming out, they're usually someone there to help them, because it must be scary. It's different. It's like going into Mars,
Well, they're actually, they all say they're scared coming in, because they don't know what to expect. One guy says, I've never been to church or read a Bible, or he said, and all these people are walking around, hugging on me and smiling and thank you, Jesus, and thank God that you're here. And he said, I'm going, what is this place? And so I was terrified coming in. He said, but once I got there and I was cocooned in that love, and I realized that everybody was there for my recovery, to help me recover and change my life. He said, now I'm scared to go out, because now I really know what it's like out on the street.
Exactly.
He said, I know what it's like to be whole and clean and pure inside, and have no animosity towards anybody. I've forgiven everybody I know to forgive, and gotten everything right with God and people and family and everything. And so now I'm afraid to go out, like I was afraid to come in.
That's quite a title of something. But let me just tell everybody, you've been listening to Dean Webb. He's even better than you hear. If in person, he's even better. He's the executive director of Faith Farm Ministries, and you ought to really get on their website. It's faithfarm.org, faithfarm.org, and learn more about them. You'll see that. You'll see Dean Webb. He has many YouTubes, and you need to, well, first of all, if you do know someone who needs help, that's a good referral for you. But even if you don't, the other thing that you need to do is to make sure you go yourself, and buy things at the thrift shop, donate things, whatever you can do that way, or donate money. As I said, WLRN, the radio show, they're You know, they're hot to get money, and it's a great show. I love listening. But just if you're going to give money there, just take a little bit of it away. They'd kill me if they hear me this, but I don't care. If you're going to give $10 a month, give $5 a month to them and $5 a month to Faith Farm. And if you can afford $1,000, give it to Faith Farm, because the proof really is in the pudding. And it is amazing. 66 years. Congratulations. Happy birthday.
Amen. Thank you.
I mean,
it's quite a milestone.
I forget. You've been there 7, 8, how
10
many
years.
10 years. So when's your anniversary?
June of 07.
June
of 07 this year was my 10th anniversary.
I bet that's gone fast for you too, hasn't it?
Golly. So, yeah, when I came down from Atlanta, the headhunter told me, she said, now, these people are going to ask for a 10-year commitment, so you need to be serious about this. So I was, and I did it, and I thought, boy, 10 years, man, that'll be a long time. But I tell you, Anita, it's gone so fast. And part of it is just job satisfaction, seeing the transformed lives like I saw this Sunday. It was just, it's so great. And you know, after church, a lot of the parents were hanging around. One lady this guy had his mom, dad, grandmother, grandfather's brother and sister there, and an aunt. And they were in the second row behind me. And so anyway, she, because I was involved in the program, she knew who I was. So anyway, she extended her hand to shake my hand. She said, I got to tell you, I thank you for writing that U-Turn book. She says, with those graduation stories, she says, you can't tell you. She said, I've read it through twice. She says, because that is so encouraging to me because we were hoping our son would make it through and would graduate, but to see the life turn changes of those people and what they became on their speeches from what was in their story where they started, she said, just gave me such hope.
Yeah. And you said that you thought you were going to write another book about from the families.
Oh, I told her. She said, I says, well, you might be happy to know. I said, one of the guys from Cincinnati whose daughter came through the program came into my office and suggested that I write a book called U-Turn with Families and have not only the students' graduation speech of their life, but have the family write the story of the hell they were going through when their kids were out. They didn't know if they were in a ditch dead somewhere, what they were doing till all hours of the night. They were stealing from them to get drug fixes and just the hell they went through. And I said, because most parents, when you're going through that, I said, I bet you felt like you're the only one that's going through that. She said, yeah. She said, I would love to read that. She said, that would be a great encouragement for families because people, we worry about what's going through somebody who's addicted, whether it's drugs or alcohol. But she says, you don't really know what the family's going through hell because we want them to be healthy so bad, but they're, they don't communicate with us. All they want is their next fix. They'll even steal from us to do it. And we lay awake night. We don't know if they're dead in a ditch somewhere or killed in a nightclub scene from a gunman. We don't know what's going on in their life because they don't communicate with us except when they come home to steal from us or ask money for money.
Well, here, the perfect example of what you just said is the woman who came to this past graduation and her son explained what it was like from his standpoint.
From his standpoint, yeah.
And she really, she needs to write something because here she now saw the victim and she's kind of the victim. It's
right. She's been on both sides and she's been, and the neat thing about her, I told her I wanted her story because she prostituted for about 20 years. And she said, the neat thing about that, she said, how God turns the evil to good, she said, is I have to stop at truck stops all the time. I'm a cross-country truck driver. And she said, you wouldn't believe every truck stop has its prostitutes. And she said, she said, sometimes I get behind on schedule, but I will always go minister and talk with these women and try and pray with them and see if I can get them out of that lifestyle because they know, when I tell them about me, they know that I know what I'm talking about. And she says, and I have an ear with them. They have an ear to hear what I say because I lived that lifestyle for 20 years and I talk their language. She says, so God, I feel like God is using me to turn around and minister and help those women all over the country at these truck stops.
But does she send them to Faith Farm?
She tells them that's where she got clean. And, of course, she says faithfarm.org. You can apply online from any place in the country. They accept from all 50 states and have had people come from all 50 states. So you can get out of it. She said the Palm Beach County Sheriff Department delivers local prostitutes to them in lieu of incarceration. So you're out here in Arizona, but you can do the same thing. You can apply from anywhere in the United States.
And you may not have been able to track that. I was just curious if anybody came from one of those drug stops because of her.
Oh, I don't know. She's only been driving less than 2 years now. But she gave us a good tip. She gave us her company will hire convicted felons. One of the problems we have is when people are a convicted felon, they have trouble getting a job. That's why one of the things we're trying to start up is an eBay internet sales stuff for our high-end stuff, because the guy can do that out of a garage. He can put stuff on eBay and make a living. He doesn't have to be around other people. So we're in the process. I said we're going to start an eBay or an online sales thing, and it'll help convicted felons. So
that's great.
Yeah, we're always looking for ways to help people.
Your entrepreneurial mind just never stops. Dean, it's been really wonderful talking to you as usual, and I always get a lot of ideas, and we're going to, of course, work on your 2 books for our column. We always write a column every month, and the November column is going to discuss your 2 books, which were outstanding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd love to.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.